I'm Bons Magsambal, and you're watching Rappler Talk. The COVID-19 pandemic has presented many challenges to the education sector, and we're seeing mental health impact. Joining our discussion today is Dr. Joan Rifarial of the Philippine Psychiatric Association. Hello, Doc. Welcome to Rappler.
Hi, Bonds. Thank you very much for having me.
Doc, kumusta po kayo ngayon?
I'm good. Ikaw, kamusta? How
Okay
are you?
naman, Doc.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Siguro let's go into the discussion na, Doc. On October 5, over 24 million Filipino students started classes again in the middle of still untamed pandemic. We've been hearing and reading reports of students experiencing burnout. What is the state of the students' mental health during the pandemic?
Yes, Bonds. Kasi during this time, we know na it's a global pandemic. It's a global health crisis, and because of this, kailangan there are transitions, there are adjustments made, and one of that is the shift from face-to-face classes to the current na distance or online learning. So, in any situation, Bonds, pag meron talagang bago, when there is something new, when there is a change happening, it's normal to feel stressed, and really there is that period na tinatawag natin na adjustment phase. Usually in literature or from literature, it's usually about 3 months na. So normal yon na talagang the students, the parents, the teachers will go through this adjustment phase now.
Siguro to contextualize our discussion for today, can you briefly describe or explain to our viewers what are the symptoms of having stress, depression, and anxiety?
Yes, oo. Kasi na-mention ko yung stress kanina, no? And usually this is felt during times of transitions, no? During times of adjustment. So ang stress, when we say stress, it's a state, no? It's a state wherein parang there is that disequilibrium, there is that imbalance between a source of discomfort to us, no? Something, a source of discomfort, a challenge, or something na parang it will it will give us a very challenging, it's a challenging situation for us, and versus the coping skills available of a person or individual to cope or to handle that source of stress, now which we call stressor. So yung disequilibrium na yon, it can present with symptoms of physical symptoms. It can manifest as halimbawa pain, bodily aches and pains like headache, palipat-lipat, headache, back pain, muscle pain, chest pain, mga ganon. It can also present with cognitive symptoms, brain symptoms like hirap to focus, difficulty
Mhm.
concentrating, difficulty to keep your attention span, difficulty to make decisions. Pwede din, it can also manifest as emotional symptoms like parang kinakabahan, natatakot. Also,
Mm-mm.
those can also be symptoms of stress. But what's important to remember is that, again, stress is a normal part of life kasi we encounter, di ba, stressors every day. But when it becomes chronic, chronic meaning patuloy siya, tumatagal, it may lead to symptoms na of burnout, as you mentioned kanina,
Oo.
burnout, anxiety, and depression. Anxiety meaning in layman, Bon, ito yung kinakabahan, nangangamba,
Okay.
may mga
Mm.
worries, may mga fear, and it can manifest physically as palpitations, parang nag-chest pain,
Mm.
chest heaviness, mabilis ang tibok ng puso, hirap huminga. Pag depression naman, it's more of a mood problem, meaning bagsak
Mm.
ang mood, nawawalan ng
Okay.
interest or gana ang isang individual to do the tasks which were siguro previously which made this person happy or which
Mm.
gave which were the person found interesting to do before, pero ngayon nawawalan na ng interest to do the tasks. And it can also manifest as sleep problems, be it
Okay.
oversleeping or lack of sleep or insomnia or eating problems. Pwede din yun, Bon. Pwedeng
Okay.
kain ng kain or walang ganang kumain and
Yeah.
walang energy. So, in fact, if you notice, Bon, medyo there is an overlap of the symptoms, but in terms of yung mga core symptoms nila, nagkakaiba, no? Kung anxiety, more of pangamba, worry, and kung depression, more of bagsak ang mood, nalulungkot at nawawala ng gana.
Doc, for my next question, COVID-19 has infected over 360,000 people in the country. And of
Mhm.
course, my anxiety that comes with it, that whenever one goes out, parang there's this fear of contracting COVID-19. And for students who are doing distance learning now, attending online classes or learning through modules, it adds to the stress. Siguro based on your experience, at the same
Mhm.
time, yung mga consultations na na-receive
Mhm.
nyo, what are the usual concerns of the students whenever they do consultations with
With regards to online or the distance learning,
distance learning?
usually, oo, usually bonds yung they always talk about the amount of workload na they need to do. Workload siya. Now, usually, personally lang from my experience, it's the workload na they feel na um, patong-patong, sabay-sabay for all of the subjects, and then patong-patong, ang daming they need to do a lot of things in a short time, in a short amount of time, and the deadlines are very short, na parang they need to submit kaagad several projects or assignments after a few hours, parang ganon ang nakukuha ko na reports or feedback from some of the students na under my care. And another is, of course, yung iba, no? They have a lack of or no access or lack of access to resources. Na sometimes, no? One of these is yung the platform, yung the availability of stable Wi-Fi, internet connection. So they find this stressful, lalo na if there is an ongoing na ano daw, no, yung discussion which would entail for them to recite or to join or participate. So medyo pag minsan, it can also be stressful when they lose that stable Wi-Fi or internet connection. Yung iba naman, there is the problem with, ang concern nila is a lack of space, na, wherein they
Okay.
can really stay and where they can really concentrate, no, when they sit or stay in that place, specific position, place or table or area, parang study mode on na dapat. But for some
Mm-mm.
of them, they also lack this space because of the current na state natin ngayon na pwedeng in a family, there can be a lot of children or siguro, di ba, ang pag minsan tatlong children, and then may mga parents din na who are also doing work from home. So talagang there is that difficulty to look for a specific area wherein they can
So
really
just
focus.
wondering,
Mm-mm.
so Doc, just wondering, so when you mean by yung space, parang
Mhm.
yung mga estudyante ba sinasabi nila na hindi ganun ka-conducive yung environment nila sa bahay when it comes to learning?
For some of them, yeah. For some of them, that they really need they parang similar to a classroom, di ba? Pag classroom kasi you really have your own desk, you have your own chair, and you know na that is your area. So for some, talagang it's difficult for them to have this particular space in their own homes, which may add na to that stress because it can add to the distraction. Kasi habang nandito ka, katabi mo din is your brother or sister who's also doing her module or who's also studying. So it can be a source of distraction too.
Doc, just wondering for my next question, do we
Mm-hmm.
have figures now to compare the number of students doing consultations pre-pandemic and now that they are doing distance learning, nasa pandemic? Are we seeing an increase in consultation ba? Or what does this say about the state of mental health of students?
Ah, in terms of figure bonds, I'm not aware na of any study being made or of any concrete figures about this. But personally, what I can say is that personally, from my observation, from my own practice, I get more referrals now. From not just with students, in fact, but the teachers who are also going through this adjustment phase, and as well as parents who are going through a lot of adjustments, especially if they also have other roles, diba? Like work from home, etc. But in terms of figures, I am not aware at this point if we have that already, especially since kakastart lang ng school for most of the schools last October 5.
Pero based on your experience with your office, with your clinic,
Mm-hmm.
there's an increase compared uh, compared last year?
With this ngayon, with this concern na, with this concern now, there is personally, there are
Mhm.
more referrals and calls now to ask for help and guidance about this source of stress, no? But usually naman ang ano nga no is the always no we look at it pa rin as a source of stress, not really something na pathologic. Kasi nga again, there is still that period of adjustment na. So always I reassure everyone no na talagang these are difficult times. And we are going through a lot of changes now. A lot of adjustments are to be made, but it's normal to feel all of these emotions during this abnormal time.
You mentioned earlier about the parents being affected as well. So the
Mm-hmm.
distance learning is also affecting the parents since they are the ones left with their children to guide
Mm-hmm.
them at home. Some parents
Yes.
have to juggle working at the same time guiding their children at home.
Oh,
How is
oh.
the setup affecting our parents? Siguro based
Correct.
on your consultations then na
Yes.
nakuha niyo with the parents.
Correct ones. In fact, ang the usually the concern of the parents is really how to juggle na parang they feel stressed because of all of the things that they need to do given the limited amount of time na given the 24 hours a day na timeline. So parang they have to do work from home for those who are still doing that, no, work from home, aside from being there physically to guide their kids through this distance learning. Kasi especially for younger children na who would need more supervision, di ba? During this time of distance learning. So kasama yon. And then sometimes pa they have to take care no, of the needs of the family, like they have to clean the house, cook for the children, etc. So nagkakaano, no? There is that overwhelming feeling among the parents na parang this time talaga there really is a lot of things to do in a short amount of time.
So, Doc, let's talk about the implementation of the Department of Education for distance learning.
Mm-mm.
Yesterday, on Tuesday, the agency released a statement appealing to the public not to immediately connect the deaths of students and teachers to
Mm-hmm.
distance learning, as this is a sensitive issue. This is because of reports that students and teachers are having a hard time coping with the revamped education system. May I know, Doc, can we really isolate these unfortunate cases from distance learning? What do you think are the factors that contributed?
When we talk kasi bonds of suicide na, it's a very complex issue or concern. It's really complex, and we need to look at suicide as an interplay of a lot of factors. So these factors are in fact biological, psychological, and social, or rather than spiritual factors. So meaning we cannot exactly when things like this happen, it's really we cannot say na it's only one factor which would cause for this event to happen, but really there is a need to look at the interplay of factors. So we cannot say na it's due to this alone, but we need to know the all of the things happening. Kasi nga, always yun. It's always an
Mhm.
interplay of a lot of factors.
Pero Doc, at least siguro to safely say na lang din and to
Mm-hmm.
contextualize the
Mm-hmm.
situation that our students are undergoing now,
Mm-hmm.
uh, can we consider the stress or the anxiety na nararanasan nila when it comes to distance learning as a factor?
As a factor, ang mahirap kasing sabihin natin, Bon, no, na to really
Mhm.
pinpoint it na as a
Okay.
factor, no? Kasi again, meron naman din cases like some of those under my care, no? They see it as source of stress, pero stressful siya but in a positive way, no? So it's really difficult to comment, no, na ito talaga siya, this is a factor. We cannot
Okay.
say that. So again, let's always remember na it's an interplay talaga. Kaya nga siya complex na kasi it's an
Mhm.
interplay of a lot of
A lot of
factors,
factors.
and we cannot really pinpoint na ito yon.
One,
We
okay.
cannot. Kasi even if it's stressful for some students, ang stress kasi bonds, kasi nga it's a normal part of life, no? It can be positive din. No? Stressful siya, but positive in a way kasi when we are stressed, diba, we are pushed to study better, to study hard, to
Mm-mm.
prepare more for our exam, para mas magaling tayo sa ating recitation. So, meron din gano'n naman na effect ang stress. So, that's why we really cannot say na it's really because of this. No, hindi pwede. Kasi nga, it's
So,
always an interplay of
play,
all of these factors. Pwedeng biological, psychological, or coping skills, social factors also like what's happening sa family, for example, mga relationships, mga ganon.
So
Mhm.
for my next question, Doc, this is another issue on the school naman din, sa
Mhm.
side ng schools. We're facing another issue with regards to students' mental health as the Department of Education only has 1,096 active guidance counselor for over 22 million public school students. What as a mental health
Ah.
professional, what do you think is the implication of this shortage of guidance counselor in addressing the mental health issues of the students?
I agree, Bonds, kasi even kami, no, in the Philippine Psychiatric Association, there is just around, I think, mga 500 to 600 of us. So, for the whole population, di ba, of the Philippines, na Philippine population, pati mga psychologists, I think there's medyo limited talaga din. So, I'm happy lang, Bonds, kasi there is the passage, di ba, of our mental health law last
Mhm.
June of 2018. And one of the ano doon, no, one of the provisions in fact in the mental health law was to incorporate mental health in some of the topics or subjects in school, especially schools, I mean, across all levels. So, meaning, na-incorporate siya, na-integrate siya, for example, in health classes. So, which is very helpful kasi kahit na there is medyo limited lang ang number of mental health professionals for our country, there is that, ano pa rin, no? Area wherein we can do something pa rin to raise awareness on mental health and mental health issues. And not just sa school bonds, ha, pati sa workplace, kasama na rin in the workplace. So
Mm-mm.
that is something talaga na which we are grateful for na it's a provision in the mental health law.
Meron palang silver lining din kasi napasama na yung mental.
Yeah. Correct, correct. Oo, pati sa workplace kasi we know na there is also stress, 'di ba? In the workplace like kahit sa mga schools, no, sa mga teachers. So pati sa mga teachers there are programs as well for them.
Doc, for my next question, there is still
Mhm.
this problem, long existed na itong problem na to on stigma whenever
Mhm.
one has to consult a psychiatrist or any mental health professional. How
Yes.
can we break this stigma? Maybe what can you say about this issue?
Let us stop the stigma. O, di ba? Let us really stop the stigma. And it really starts with awareness that mental health issues are, or mental health disorders or problems are real concerns. And wag matakot, wag mahiya if you feel the need to seek help or to talk to someone about it. We know that according to the World Health Organization, there is no health without mental health, meaning bonds. In the definition of health, no, there is that parang physical health and mental health and social well-being. In fact, all of them are really intertwined. So kung may mararamdaman tayo physically, it can affect our mental health, etc., vice versa. So really, please, let's always keep in mind that there's mas maganda na we are aware na having mental health concerns, these are very valid concerns, and there's nothing wrong, no, with seeking help about these concerns, similar to when we seek help for our physical conditions, diba? Like for hypertension, diabetes, we also seek help for that. And mental health concerns, mental health problems are true medical problems as well.
Thank you so much, Doc, for that
Mhm.
insight. For
Yes.
my next question, Doc, kasi parang yung pagpapakonsult kasi sa isang mental health professional, it entails cost and not
Mm-mm.
everyone can afford that. So for
Yes.
students who are not capable to consult any mental health professionals due to financial constraints. Is there any way they can do this free of charge, or is there any organization or mental health advocate offering free consultation?
Yes, oo, bonds. In fact, the Department of Health through its hospital, no, yung ano nila, partner ba or the National Center for Mental Health is the DOH mandated hospital, na for mental health concerns and mental health problems. So meron, no, they have this 24-hour, 7 days a week na helpline, which anybody can call. And aside from that, ako, personally, I always tell those under my care, no, kung talagang hirap, it starts pa rin, or during my talks, no, I always encourage everyone, kahit na hindi pa papunta doon sa mga mental health professionals, it starts with reaching out, talking to people people na you feel comfortable to talk to, and you feel na you trust these people to hear you, listen to you. So maybe, no, may family member na you feel pwede mong i-express ang iyong mga thoughts, emotions to this family member, or friends, or ng mga teachers, for example, no, kasi I'm sure teachers, especially mga class advisors, are also there. They're very helpful as well, and they listen also to their students. Kung wala naman, like members from the church, diba? So meron naman, marami, no? There are a lot of people, I'm sure, who are willing to listen to us. And kung aside from that, again, yung the Department of Health through the National Center for Mental Health, they have this helpline available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and other NGOs, no, like yung merong list yan from the Department of Health na website.
Okay.
Kami
Doc, for
din
my
from
next
the Philippine Psychiatric Association, we
meron
also
kayo.
have. Yes.
Doc, baka po pwede nyo i-share nyo po sa mga viewers natin if paano po kayo
Oo.
ma-reach out.
Meron siyang listahan, bonds, na sa Mind Matters naman ang tawag sa Philippine Psychiatric Association. Mind Matters, but I do not lang have the numbers now, but it can be download, or I can send it to you. Pwede ba yun, bonds? Send ko sa iyo yung...
Pwede po yan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Para you can flash
Or
it.
pwede po nilang makita sa
Yes.
website ng Philippine Psychiatric Association. Just log
Pwede
on
din.
to your website.
Yeah. Help is available, and there are a lot of agencies, organizations, NGOs, and I can provide you with a list.
Thank you so much, Doc.
Yes.
For my next question, if anyone is experiencing symptoms of anxiety, I mean, these are extraordinary times. These are difficult times. If
Correct.
there are anyone po na experiencing anxiety, distress, or thoughts of self-harm, what should one do, especially those living alone? Ano yung pwede nilang gawin, lalo na yung mga nag-iisa?
Yeah. Especially for those mag-isa and the whole family is in the province, for example, no, or on self-quarantine, diba? And when we are alone, kasi sometimes, no, we feel the isolation is there, and loneliness may creep in. So mas maganda, please remember to reach out. Reach out. It's important during this time to stay socially connected. Socially, we may be physically distant, but we remain socially connected. Meaning, please reach out, call, or send a text, or video call. Do video calls with your family members, with your friends. Kung pwede po, no, mag-Zoom meeting kayo, and then you can do your kamustahan. Mas maganda yon kasi again, when we say health, it also involves yung social well-being natin. Kasama yun. No? Let's picture health kasi as a triangle, no? Physical, mental, and then social well-being. So, kailangan we take care of our social well-being by maintaining social connection, social connectedness during this time of physical distancing. Number 2, at home, kasi nga kung mag-isa tayo, make sure that you know or you find a stress outlet. It's very important during this time. Find a stress outlet or do things na which make you feel good or happy. For example, yung iba bonds, this is the time that they are able to rediscover or relearn na ang galing pala nilang magluto, 'di ba? O ang sarap pala na nakakapag-paint na sila ulit. They're able to play the musical instruments again. Yung iba ngayon, no, they are taking care of pets, mga plants. So what I'm saying is that keep yourself medyo ano din, no, healthy by doing mga physical activity as well, which can boost the level of happy hormones, endorphins. Get enough rest and sleep. Sleep is really very important. So always remember bonds, di ba? Na during this time, even if we are physically distant from our family, from our friends, it's important to maintain that social connectedness. Na? So we can always pwedeng magkamustahan ang mga friends, di ba? Through Zoom, mga online platforms or video calls kasi it's also a way, no, for us to maintain that ano pa rin, no, that social connection to our loved ones and friends. Yung iba naman, they find a stress outlet. It's really important also to do things which make you feel good and happy. Like for example, no, physical activity is very important because it raises our levels of endorphins or the happy hormones. Yung iba naman, they rediscover or relearn mga skills nila which make them feel good when they are able to see na, ay, ang sarap pala ng na-bake ko na cake, o, di ba, with decorations, or the paintings that they're able to do, or drawings, or yung iba, they do cross-stitching. So definitely, there are a lot of things that we can do now, especially during this time na we are in our own homes, just do things na which make you feel good and happy. Like yung iba naman, they take care of pets or plants. That's why we have the ano ngayon, yung bago ngayon na plantitos, plantitas. Kasi studies have shown in fact that when we take care of living organisms like pets or plants, it also gives meaning and purpose to our lives. Kasi we are taking care, di ba? And of something living, and it gives meaning kasi lalo na when we see them growing and becoming into these beautiful plants, healthy plants later on with beautiful and colorful flowers. So mas nakakaganda din siya ng mood when we are able to see the fruits of our nurture, yung pag-nurture natin and taking care of our plants and pets.
Siguro, Doc, for my next question,
Yes.
may mga magulang tayo at may mga estudyante na nanonood sa
Mm-mm.
atin ngayon. And
Yeah.
curious sila kung what is the proper way of talking to someone who is experiencing mental health issues. Siguro, let's take it for
Mm.
example, sa
Mm.
mga students across
Mm.
different levels. Kasi iba-iba yung approach, for example, for an
Mm.
elementary student, for a high school, and for a
Yeah.
college. Ano yung mamibigay niyo sigurong tip?
I think bonds in general, ha? I can give a tip siguro in general kasi ang mental health naman kasi it doesn't discriminate between gender, no? Between age or socioeconomic status. In general, let's always remember to be non-judgmental in our statement. So non-judgmental please, and kung may sinasabi sa atin, may kino-confide sa atin ang ating mga anak or ating mga students, please remember na let us not dismiss the statements made. Na? So always make sure na we keep that yung active listening skills natin. Active listening meaning we really look into the meaning. No, active meaning of we look into the meaning of what is being said and the emotions, and let's do our best to empathize, no? Feel kung whatever the individual is feeling at that point para we are able to help better. Let's avoid statements like for example, no, yung kasi ako, I hear this, no, sometimes, arte-arte lang yan. Kasi para wag kang pumasok sa school. O anak, ayaw mo kasi tamad-tamad ka, ayaw mo pumasok sa school, kaya arte-arte mo yan. Or snap out of it. It's all in your head. Mga ganon, no? So please, ako, I always advise everyone, no? Especially for those under my care, na let's avoid mga statements like that because we know that the emotions that these students or individuals are, the emotions that they're going through are all very valid. emotions, and we really need to actively listen for us to be able to help them better.
To wrap up our discussion, we're down to our last question. What is your
Yes.
message to anyone who is experiencing hard time during this difficult time?
Yes, oh, that's a very good question, Bonds. Number one, I would like to emphasize now what I said kanina sa start. Please do not be afraid of stress. Kasi stress is a normal part of life, especially during this global health and financial crisis that we are currently facing. Talagang it can be stressful. But again, in fact, Bonds, in the definition of mental health, the word stress is there. It is emphasized that an element of mental health is being able to cope with the stressors of life. So stress will always be there. Huwag matakot kung may word na stress, but in fact, let's use this to push ourselves to do our best and to use this to motivate ourselves to do better. And number two, when we feel sad, lonely, scared, afraid, worried, anxious, depressed during this time, remember that these are all normal emotions during an abnormal situation, such as this pandemic ngayon. That's why it's really okay not to feel okay during this time. And lastly, if you feel the need to talk to someone, please know that help is available. There are helplines, hotlines available. Definitely, we are all in this together. Walang iwanan, be it parents, teachers, students, lahat tayo. We are going through something, we are going through this transition together. So let's work together, be patient, work together, and as much as possible, let's show compassion and be kind to one another as we go through this together.
And on that note, thank you for joining us, Doc Rifarial. I'm Bons Magsambol, and this has been Rappler Talk.